Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us here. As Winna said, our goal is to try to share timely updates with everybody as we are gearing up for the start of what looks to be a very unusual school year. We welcomed our teachers back this week, and so want to thank the entire DPS community for all the work to prepare for the start of this school year. We will be hosting some town halls for families to help answer some of the questions that we've received. We do a daily Facebook Live show that many parents watch, but we also want to be able to get information to families who may not be as tuned in via social media. So we will have information about those town halls that will be next week for family members to be able to call in to ask questions. Those will be telephone town halls twice next week. So stay tuned for more information around that. We're very excited today to share some exciting news around our commitment to racial equity in the district. This year, we have been very committed to lifting up the talent and excellence for each and every one of our Black students across DPS as we work on ensuring that everyone understands the contributions and the impact of the past. We know that this will be a very different experience for all of us, and that we have important changes that we need to make to help ensure that we are achieving equity for everyone. We know that our students are not coming back in the same way that they left us last year, and it's vital that we, educators in the entire district, challenge the system of racism within DPS by affirming our commitment to Black excellence. We have made changes to our curriculum to more accurately reflect the culturally responsive learning that we know is essential for our students and our diverse population to be successful. And we are incredibly proud of our students at Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Early College and their Black Student Alliance on their podcast launch, Exploring the Minority Experience in America. These students were featured today on the Today Show this morning on a national platform around their bold work for their podcast. They've spent countless hours, I think over 89 hours, creating podcasts that showcase this information, and share a link to the first episode that aired a couple of weeks ago with all of you. So we'd love to open it up for any questions that you might have around things that are happening here in DPS.
And just as a reminder, if you have any questions, just go ahead and pose them in the chat function, and just let me know who you are and who you're with. Okay, so we have a question, Melanie with Chalkmeat. Do you have any data on how many families have chosen the virtual option and how many teachers have requested to teach remotely?
Yeah, so thank you. We still are encouraging families to complete annual family update. I believe this is the first time we've ever done it completely in an online platform. And in the past, there have been families that did walk-in registrations. So we know we have not registered all of our students at this point. It is looking like about 30% of our families are requesting the 100% virtual option. We have shared that the choice is non-binding. And so we do have families that have not yet filled out that portion of the registration in annual family update, letting us know if they want in-person or remote. We made the choice to make that non-binding after originally saying that it would be a binding choice given the extension of remote learning through first quarter, so that families had more time to make that decision as we move into the school year. And so it is looking right now like it's about 70% requesting in-person, 30% looking at virtual. We are still working on the process to review accommodation requests for our teachers and all of our district employees. We have a couple of different ways that people can request accommodations. People can request accommodations because they themselves qualify for a risk factor, because they have family members that qualify for a risk factor, because they have child care obligations that prohibit them from being able to work in person, And we are also working to determine if we need more teachers that have requested accommodations to help support the number of students who are looking for virtual learning. So we are going through that process with our school leaders to be able to review all of those applications to help our schools with that.
Thanks. Our next question is from Sonia at 9 News. We know at least 2 schools that have had teachers test positive for COVID, and they still plan to open. When does DPS open? When DPS does open, what's the plan if when a teacher or student tests positive?
Yeah, thanks, Sonia. And want to really shout out Gary Community Investments for the launch of the COVID Check program. Yesterday, we began the COVID Check program here in DPS, which will provide ongoing COVID testing for DPS school-based employees twice a month, and for other employees who work in support teams outside of schools once a month. We know from schools around the world that have opened successfully, a robust testing program is part of what helps them stay open and do so successfully while limiting the spread of COVID transmission. And so teachers at no cost can get a drive-through test at right now it's at North High School. We'll be opening up South High School later this week. And teachers also and DPS employees can access the COVID Check locations both in Aurora and in Jefferson County as well, just by making an appointment. And the goal really is to make sure that there's ongoing regular testing so that we can stay ahead of any concerns that we have. We're working very closely with the partners through Denver Health and the Denver Department of Public Health and the Environment on using the quarantining guidelines in the event that there are any cases of COVID in our schools. And part of what we want to make sure that we are able to do is really reinforce the DPS 5 that we talked about last week. The first thing is complete your prior to entry health check. That's for our students and our teachers when we're in person. If people aren't feeling well, we're asking them to stay home by completing that health check. Wearing a mask while we're in our school buildings. And as a reminder, we are requiring that everybody wear masks while we're in school unless young children are napping or while we're eating or if we're on a mask break generally outside. That we maintain social distance, including meeting virtually for adults. So we're asking adults, even when we're in person, to continue to meet virtually. And then finally, the 5th one is practicing good hygiene, hand washing, hand sanitizer. We've equipped our schools with hand sanitizing stations, cases of hand sanitizer to try to make sure that when we are in person, that we really are maintaining those healthy environments. If there is a case of confirmed COVID, we will be following all of the requirements around quarantining. And if there are multiple cases, there are different requirements in terms of thinking about how you keep the environment safe. We will be disinfecting all high touch areas multiple times a day, including bathrooms, stairwells, things like that, and doing disinfecting overnight.
Great. Kim at Fox 31, I believe it's Clear Creek schools changed plans for the start of the year based on changes to COVID info. What exact info will be needed to return to in-person learning in October?
Yeah, so the most important tool that we are waiting for with our local health experts is a framework that has metrics based on public health data to help guide decisions around in-person learning. That's something that we think is going to be critically important to help us make decisions around a safe return to in-person learning. Denver actually right now is experiencing a decline in COVID cases, and these metrics will really help us make a data-based decision around when it's safe to reopen. So we're working in close collaboration with Denver Health and the Metro Denver Health Partnership to help create the metrics that we'll be able to then use for safe reopening for in-person learning.
Thank you. We have a question in from Erica at Chalkbeat. Erica's asking, DPS went through several plans over the course of the summer. Looking back, do you feel that you lost planning time due to inconsistent guidance from the state and the governor? Do you feel like you're getting what you need in terms of guidance? And will you be ready for a robust remote learning experience on August 24th?
Yeah, so thank you. I think that we are all of us experiencing a very new, dynamic, and changing environment when it comes to grappling with the COVID pandemic. I definitely would be easier to make decisions if we had had stable and non-changing conditions and guidance. I think it's the reality that as the infection rate with COVID change, either going up or going down, that it's important that we be able to change along with them. I think this framework for decision making that uses publicly available data and metrics is something that will be critically important for us to be able to make decisions based on data. And that will absolutely help us. I definitely wish that were available earlier, and understand the challenging conditions that everybody is dealing with, both, from the governor's office to public health officials, as well as to school districts.
Thanks. Sonia from 9 is asking, in the context of remote learning until October 16th, what will paraprofessionals be doing? Are they furloughed? Are they being paid? And it seems to me that those who feel comfortable working with groups of 10 students, the same students each day in a pod, would be a great resource to staff such pods.
Yeah, so thank you. So our paraprofessionals are still working. Even in the remote environment, there really is an important need for adults to be interacting with kids in small groups. Our video conferencing platforms, both Zoom and Google Meet, allow for breakout groups so that students can work in smaller groups with the kind of interaction that we know is critical for their learning to continue. And paraprofessionals are a really key aspect of that. We are working right now on plans for offering learning centers in schools where small groups of students would be able to come in, meet with their teachers virtually, but in a safe proctored environment. And so we will have more information as we finalize plans around that. We definitely understand both the challenge for working parents to support their children if they are working, the need for safe spaces for kids, and the need for reliable internet at times. And so that's something that we are in the process of developing and designing. We'll have more information as we finalize that work in the coming weeks. Winna, was there another question?
Yes, I was saying that the next question from Kim is asking if you can talk a bit more about the metrics being created to determine a return to school and what it will include.
Sure. So this is a framework that's being developed by our local health experts in collaboration with the directors of the local health departments. So they are looking at a variety of different metrics that are publicly available and updated on a regular basis, either daily or weekly. They are also doing some research around thresholds to determine how they would guide decision making based on different levels. My understanding is it would look similar to the thresholds that Cherry Creek has developed in collaboration with Tri-County Health. And the goal across the Metro Denver Partnership for Health is to have a common set of metrics that school districts across the metro area would be able to use. We are very hopeful that that will be finished in a short period of time. I do believe that they are going through some final steps right now to do the last bit of research around thresholds for decision making.
And a follow-up question from Kim, will the safe proctored environments be available by the 24th?
We're still in the process of working on that right now. So if they're not available by the 24th, our goal will be to make them available as soon as we can. We may need a little bit more time to get them finalized and ready.
Okay, I think we have, no, Jenny, I see your question. Jenny with CPR is just kind of asking another follow-up as far as metrics similar to Cherry Creek's and when do you anticipate it coming? As far as test positivity rate being 14-day average, looking at daily hospitalizations and the 14-day incident rate per 100,000 residents. Just kind of wondering if it'd be along the similar line.
I think they are looking at similar metrics. Right now, I think the conversation that they're in is what would it take to be at a red, a yellow, or a green, and how that information in the aggregate would be used for recommendations around remote versus in-person and hybrid versus fully in-person learning.
Okay, we have time for just a couple more questions. Melanie at Chalkbeat's asking, did the $10 a day childcare for DPS staff fill up with DPS staff families, and will it be open to the larger community?
It is actually open right now to the larger community, so there are available slots for childcare through Discovery Link that parents as well as staff members can request for $10 a day.
Okay, I think that wraps it up. And as always, you can reach out to me directly if you have any follow-up questions. And thank you again.
Thanks, everyone.